Can we get my mom on the phone?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? For First We Feast, I'm Sean Evans, and you're watching Hot Ones. It's the show with hot questions and even hotter wings. And today we're joined by Nick Offerman. He's an actor you probably know best from his role as the revered Ron Swanson on Parks and Recreation. He's also a New York Times best-selling author, and you can catch him live on the All Rise Tour. Visit OffermanWoodshop.com for more information. Nick Offerman, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
What's your headspace right now? How are you with spicy food?
I'm okay. Generally, I can handle most food, but I don't seek out the crazy flaming foods. I'm looking forward to getting an education. Okay. Oh, that's way too hot. It's delightfully spicy. I'd call that piquant.
So, obviously we have to take a wing to discuss Ron Swanson, a character whose legend has seemingly only grown since the days of Parks and Recreation. How familiar are you with Ron Swanson's place in internet culture? And do you get a kick out of seeing the second life the character has had in meme form?
Well, it's pretty inexplicable. I mean, I get a great deal of fan art, and the memes and now the deep fake videos. They're quite entertaining. I'm always grateful knowing how the internet operates, that no one makes a huge ass out of me, that people are generally kind to me or like use me to get a laugh. I was just glad to have a good acting job, so the fact that it has life beyond that, I think is good free advertising.
So I know that the topic of where Ron Swanson ends and where Nick Offerman begins, it's well-worn territory at this point, but if you'll humor me, I want to hit you with a few of the internet's favorite Ron Swansonisms.
Sure.
I'm just curious the degree to which they resonate with Nick Offerman. Dear frozen yogurt, you are the celery of desserts. Be ice cream or be nothing. 0 stars.
In reality, I guess I'm more open-minded to all things than Ron Swanson is pretty strict with his rules. I not only like frozen yogurt, but I like celery.
All right, never half-ass 2 things, always whole-ass 1 thing.
Now that could have been spoken by my dad. He always said, if you're gonna do a job, do it right. And so I've always tried to stick with that edict. Again, I did not come up with that line, but I do live by that standard.
And one more for you. Give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Don't teach a man to fish and you feed yourself. He's a grown man and fishing isn't that hard.
Sure, I think that makes a lot of sense. We're too mollycoddling in this modern age of consumerism where you are never left on your own to learn to survive. So I think we should send our kids out into the woods naked with maybe a ball of string and a fish hook if you want to pamper them. Chicago, sweet home. Unimpressed so far. It's only delicious.
Well, enjoy these moments. Soak it in, you know?
This is nothing.
So I know that you grew up in Minooka, Illinois, a town that I think I used to drive through on my way to the University of Illinois down I-55 just south of Joliet there.
You would have passed Shanahan, our twin village. Minooka was next to Shanahan. Minooka had an exit on Route 80.
Was unofficial St. Patrick's Day a thing when you were at the University of Illinois, or did that happen afterwards?
Must have been after me. That doesn't ring a bell.
And then did you have a favorite on-campus landmark? Did you ever go to those Morrow plots where they had the experimental cornfields?
There was an incredible landmark that is still there called the Japan House, which is just a little bit east of the Morrow plots down on South Florida, where it's this super authentic Japanese tea house where you can learn Japanese tea ceremony and ikebana flower arrangement and all these Japanese arts in a park-like setting. It's incredibly beautiful. And so I still go back and visit it to this day. Pineapple habanero, bring it. I taste the pineapple. I taste the habanero. I believe that this is from Thunder Bay, Ontario.
That's where it's from. Thunder Bay. Shout out Thunder Bay. Have you ever been?
Not to my knowledge, but I have a feeling my wife might be calling the bathroom Thunder Bay for a couple nights after this.
So you once told Bon Appetit, if properly dried and trimmed, New York-style pizza can be used to make a box for Chicago-style pizza, a quote that establishes you as both a handyman and a biased Illinois native.
Well, first of all, that was an awesome burn. I'm very proud of it. But, you know, that's me being funny. Deep dish pizza is amazing, and the main difference is one slice of deep dish pizza is 2 meals, as opposed to you need kind of a whole pie of New York pizza to equal 1 slice. And I'm a Midwesterner, so we like our portions, you know. Thicker is better. That said, I'm perfectly fine with a New York slice as well. That's also kick-ass pizza.
And then I know that you're a seasoned cook and a great supporter of the bratwurst. Do you have a go-to bratwurst recipe?
No, I'm very simple. So I boil my bratwursts in beer. Yes, okay. Yes, I do have a recipe. I boil them in beer and then throw them on the grill. And I like to get them as caramelized as possible. And then I just have it with raw chopped onion and stone ground mustard.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah, don't screw it up. That last one is sneaking up on me. I'm still with you. I can still form sentences.
Well, that's a good thing, because as Nick Offerman fans know, you can speak eloquently on almost anything, but I think that you are your most poignant when you're railing against consumerism and the sort of technological breakthroughs that are designed to make our lives easier. Why does the phrase pizza delivery by drone make you bristle?
Well, I'm a human being with the rest of us, so all of these luxuries, I get it. I mean, whatever you're watching us on right now is super cool. You know, if you'd told me when I was in high school that I'd be eating hot wings and people were watching it on a weird little technological rectangle in a parking lot somewhere,
right,
probably crying, I would be amazed. But having pizza delivered by a flying robot, yeah, that's awesome in a lot of ways. But then we'd forget to ask questions like, who's making this pizza? Where's it coming from? Is it good for me? You know, if we indulge in industrial consumerism, we run out of natural resources, climate change happens, and suddenly we're like, well, it's apocalyptic outside, but at least we can get pizza delivered by a drone?
What's your take on self-driving cars? Thumbs down?
I mean, again, to me, I want to be responsible for my own safety. I don't want to hand that off to a corporation. And when I'm on the road, I want to worry about other human beings paying attention, not that like somebody's software update is going to keep their car from hitting me.
As a furniture maker yourself, what are your thoughts on these ready-to-assemble big box retailers like IKEA?
Any piece of furniture that you can make, even if it looks more crappy than an IKEA piece or a big box, you know, I hate to crap on just IKEA because I think they're a good company in a lot of ways. But those things are made to be disposable, and they add to the landfill. It all adds to the problem. But if you can take the time to use tools, learn to use materials that are locally sourced, you can make things that will last a lot longer. And maybe it's an ugly coffee table, but by the time it gets to your grandkids, it has a lot of charm and character. Oh yeah, that's that ugly coffee table that my grandma or grandpa made me.
And then, as a Chicago Cubs diehard, do you have any thoughts on the recent $550 million stadium renovation? Like, is that sort of thing inevitable at some point, or is it a little sad to see a head-to-toe makeover of the friendly confines?
Well, I was there a lot this year, and the nice thing is, it still really feels like Wrigley Field. There are accessories sort of out and about the park that feel fresh and modern, and feel pretty great, actually. I mean, it was the ballpark of my youth, and it's kind of crappy. And so the makeover to me just feels like they've upgraded the bathroom to where it's like, oh, it doesn't smell like urine in here. That's nice, but the ivy is still on the walls, and the hot dogs are just as mediocre as ever. Torchbearer sauces. Ghostpepper, it says on the label. That's frightening. But it is gluten-free, thankfully, because I was getting loaded up on glutens.
It's kind of a turning point a little bit on this one.
Yeah. I feel like it's ghosting my taste buds.
You can really, that ghost is really coming through right here.
My well-being is ghosting me. Later, bro.
Nick, we have a recurring segment on our show called Explain That Gram, where we do a deep dive on our guest Instagram, pull interesting pictures that need more context. We'll just pop them up on the monitor here. You just tell us the bigger story. In this first one, it looks like you're meeting Mr. T backstage at Conan.
That's right.
Do you remember this?
Very well, yeah. It was my first visit to Conan's show when he was in New York. I was with my wife, who was appearing on the show as a guest, so I was just Mr. Mullally. And Mr. T was there. And I grew up, in the Chicago area where he's from, he became a famous bouncer first. And there was some TV show, there was a bouncer competition. If you can find it, there's...
It's like an American Idol for bouncers?
Absolutely. And so like, one of the events I remember is they had a little stunt man with like a harness, and the bouncer had to pick him up and see who could throw him the farthest. So I remember Mr. T from that show, and then he became this public figure impossibly and ended up on the A-Team, so I was a huge Mr. T fan. And he also had his whole message of like treat your mother right and use good manners. So I've always really loved, a big tough guy who also was sensitive and promoted that. So when I met him, I just was absolutely blown away. He did a really funny series with Conan for a while where they would go out and pick apples together in the fall. And the greatest thing about this picture when I got it back was to see that my skull was the same size as Mr. T's.
Validating.
Made me feel like a full-grown man. Fire. Scorpion 4-pepper sauce blend.
Yeah.
It's not cold.
So, you've been upheld as a paragon of manhood in this day and age when the very tenets of masculinity are probably more hotly debated than ever. When people can survive perfectly well without knowing how to build a fire or fix a leaky faucet, what do you think is lost when people stop being human?
Well, nobody told me we were gonna go deep on this show. I'm grateful. Great question. First thing, I get accused a lot of being manly or masculine, and I suppose some of that must be true, but I come by it honest. It's nothing, it's what I was born with. I look and sound like this. But I'm actually a very talented ballet dancer. You'd be surprised to learn. I feel like everybody across the spectrum of sexuality should know how to use a screwdriver or should be able to change a tire. This shit's hot. Open, go for broke, repeat. Thank you, Firefire. Things break, and those of us who know how to fix things when they break just end up being better, responsible members of our community. Right? I'm gonna have a little milk. I believe I've heard that helps.
How about this?
With a flaming tongue? Do you want to stop before I...
Go for it. I just have one more follow-up for you. As a student of language, do you think that it makes more sense to refer to people who are maybe in a moment of weakness as nutsacks rather than pussies, since the testicles are much more vulnerable?
Well, I'm a writer, and I'm also a writer of comedy. I perform, I tour as a comedian, and so I often have to deal with this issue where if I, in the past, would have called somebody a pussy or something, or a bitch or something, I now stop myself and say, okay, I don't want to do that, because that, I think, fortifies the genderization I'm trying to work against. But that's where it gets hard, where it's like, well, traditionally, that's the word that works best. That's what I learned in the locker room as a kid, Sometimes the words are not going to be as chewy, they're not going to work as well, but I think slowly we're just going to have to keep evolving. But hopefully, here in this studio today, will be neither pussies or nutsacks. Can we get my mom on the phone? I shouldn't be reading these labels. They're not helping.
It psychs you out a little bit because you see like Ghost, Carolina Reaper.
Woo! I give this one 5 fires.
So I want to take a wing to discuss woodworking, a hobby of yours that's permeated everything from the characters you play to the books that you write to your overall worldview. Why is white oak the most heroic of all woods?
What? Can we get my mom on the phone? Can we get my mom on the phone? Can we get my mom on the phone? Why is white oak the most heroic of all woods? Well, most of the ships in history that were built of wood hoped that they were built of American white oak. When England came to America and discovered our forests, there were massive, huge white pine trees that were perfect for the masts of ships. So perfect that the Brits went around and marked this slash, this arrow mark on trees all over New England that meant, don't touch this tree, it's for the king. We're gonna make it into a ship mast. They called it the King's Arrow, I believe. And the oak trees, they said, holy cow, these massive oak trees are perfect. So a great example is in the Civil War era, there was a American naval ship called Old Ironsides. And it was a ship made of white oak, and the hull, the outside of the ship, was 18 inches thick of white oak. And so, you know, it's such a badass wood that, like, it's the choice to repel cannonballs. There you have it.
All right, Nick. How you doing?
Great. I forgot we even started.
So this next one is Da Bomb.
Da Bomb?
The scary red one.
Beyond insanity, it says. Seems like a good idea. So yeah, I generally like delicious food, but I understand that people enjoy sort of challenging themselves with spicy sauces and flavors. But I'll just take the delicious part,
Right.
generally. But I'm glad to go on this journey with you.
It's us together. It's
Yeah.
us together, Nick.
I'm glad I'm sitting down.
Me too. I feel like I might blast off here in a second.
Let me know if I start lactating.
I'm on it. Dom, you on it? Check the monitors. What do you find funny about middling authority figures? I've heard you make that case that people who take their positions of authority way too seriously are comedic gold.
Yeah. I feel drunk on caliente sauce. Well, the specific thing about them, and the two examples I remember from my youth are, they're both high school principals. One is played by Paul Gleason, he's the principal in The Breakfast Club, and the other is Jeffrey Jones, who plays the principal in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. They've worked hard and made it to be the principal of a school, but yet nobody's respecting them. And so they take themselves very seriously. They're like, people, come on in, sit down. I've got 17 rules about the faculty parking lot. Judy, thank you. And as I developed into a person perfectly suited to play that level of mediocrity, I was like, oh, I think that could be my wheelhouse. Right there.
Did you learn anything about that from being a bouncer? Because that's a job where you really have to poker face your
I can't
authority
see
more
you,
than...
Sean. Where are you?
Find me. Find me.
There, I keep talking.
Okay, just follow my voice. Just follow my voice.
You were saying.
Did you learn anything about that from being a bouncer? Because that's a job where you really have to poker face your authority more than most others.
Yeah, somehow intimidating people has everything to do with your presence. And I learned that on stage also as a young man in theater school, that if you maintain an intense presence, people will read into you. If you're the bouncer, they're like, oh, that guy's quiet. I better not mess with him. But if you're like,
He's overcompensating
making
for
a
something.
show of
Yeah.
don't mess with me, then they're like, he seems like maybe a joker.
All right, Nick.
I think that's it. We did them all. Whew. I didn't think we'd make it, but here we are at the end. Seems like we just ate a death chemical.
Well, this next one's called Burn After Eating.
Okay. I'm guessing we're tapering back down now, too.
Yeah. Returning home. We're landing the chopper.
Did you guys get the Tito's? Yes, you did. That's hand-squeezed potato water right there.
Per your rider.
I'll be surprised if I can sense anything of this sauce after the last sauce.
Sort of scorched earth in the mouth after that one.
Well, I'm getting something. Woo!
So over the course of your career, I know there are some dream gigs that got away. Which did you pursue harder, Baywatch or Lord of the Rings?
You have a fine research department. Goddamn. Woo! I definitely let the yoga exist in my sinuses. I definitely pursued Lord of the Rings much more fulsomely because that was something I desperately wanted to do. Baywatch was a joke. I really wanted to do it. When I was moving here from Chicago 20 years ago, I had a Baywatch air freshener hanging from my rearview mirror because I told all my friends, I'm gonna drive west until I get to this goddamn thing.
It's like putting a motivational quote on the mirror or something.
It really was. And I mean, you know, I was auditioning for something and the casting director also cast Baywatch. Somehow the storyline ended up on the Gulf Coast and there were some like scary hillbillies or something. She was like, oh, we actually, you know, normally I wouldn't think twice looking at you for Baywatch, but we do have some scary rednecks coming up. And so I did get to audition for it to no avail. Lord of the Rings, I was much more forceful. I sent letters to Peter Jackson, and I wrote all these letters because I really wanted to play Samwise Gamgee. To me, that's the best part in those books. Peter, I did not respond to my letters. To this day, he's not written me back, and don't think I'm not bearing a grudge. But I did eventually, through the normal channels, I made it to where they called me in, you know, the huge group to put me on tape, reading for the role of Gimli the Dwarf. Spoiler alert, didn't go my way.
All right, Nick, so this is the last dab. We call it the last dab because it's tradition around here to put a little extra on the last wing. You don't have to if you don't want to.
Well, no. If you're gonna do a job, do it right, I believe. I heard on a pithy YouTube show. Oh, yeah.
Love the form.
You call it the last dab, I call it the money shot.
We might change the name now.
Right across the thigh. This one has 3 X's on it. But I don't really care about living anymore, so. Wow.
Yep. But the good news is, Nick, that we've made it here.
We're halfway. Now bring out the hot ones.
We've gone through and we've explored the many Renaissance-like talents, from woodworking to acting to writing books, and we've been regaled by your silver tongue. And now, with the hot sauce setting your brain ablaze, I think it's time to put that to the test. We've pulled some SAT-style vocabulary words. I'll just show them to you, and if you can, try to define and put in a sentence.
Okay. Piquant. These chicken wings have grown progressively more and more motherfucking piquant. dexterous. When I walked in here, my tongue was much more dexterous than it is now, after becoming numb from hot sauce. Thespian. Many people think that I'm a professional jackass, but I correct them and tell them I'm a classically trained thespian. Unctuous. I like to think that my jokes are quite enjoyable, but often at family gatherings, they find me rather unctuous.
Well, you know what? I don't think there's anything unctuous about you, Nick Offerman. And look at you taking on the wings of death. 10 chicken wings up, 10 chicken wings down. And now I think it is time for a toast.
All right.
Lagavulin.
Yeah, this is coming out in a couple weeks. This was my character Scotch on Parks and Rec. And that led to us shooting in Scotland at their distillery. And we hit it off. Can you smell that already?
I do.
It's like a campfire.
And it smells like victory. And now, Nick Offerman, there's nothing left to do but roll out the red carpet for you. This camera, this camera, this camera. Let the people know what you have going on in your life.
Okay. Well, I'm touring a comedy show called All Rise. I sing and I talk about funny things. You can find out about tickets for that at offermanwoodshop.com. But perhaps most importantly, we're going to toast with a Lagavulin 11-year Offerman Special Edition single malt scotch.
Cheers.
To hot ones.
Hits the spot just right.
It's just short of unctuous. It went just like I thought it would, except your questions were good. Were better than I thought they would be.
For a chicken wing YouTube show.
Yeah. You never know.
Right.
You really never know.
What's up, Spice Lords? OG Camera Guy Bill here, back in the studio. You thought I was a one-hit wonder? Think again, son. I'm bringing the heat. It's the last stab, triple XXX. Turning you into a fire-breathing T-Rex, sex. Worse than Godzilla stomping on Tokyo. Send your taste buds packing, go. Get your glass of milk to chill me down. First we feast, brings the heat, we ain't clowning around. Topping wings with triple X, call me Xander Cage. Mouse throwing fireballs, chaotic evil mage. Rolling D20s, crit hit, dexterity. Tearing up so much you can no longer see. It's OG Camera Guy Bill, you think you know me? But so hot you'll shit your pants, Bobby Lee.
Did something just happen?
Sauce like Superman, leaves you wrecked. Super villain heat, call it Luther-Lex. Shooting laser beams straight from the ton. Take another dab, KO, now you're done, son. What it is, OG Camera Guy Bill, 2019, I bring the heat. Triple X.